So, welcome everyone. Thanks a lot for joining this webinar. Actually, it's a webinar about a grant that is actually already started about fish welfare and probably the first initiative that SFP is joining regarding this issue. Our donor is called Coefficient Giving, formerly known by Open Philanthropy. And this specific grant it already started in January and will be up to 2029. It's called Well4Catch, Advancing Animal Welfare in Fisheries. And I'm not sure if it's still me talking here, right, Chris? I'll just go.
I can step in. So
Okay.
anyway, we'll be going through just a couple of basic things. This should all look quite normal to everyone, but basically we're going to just do a brief background from Miguel, grant overview. He'll talk a little bit about the consortium deliverables, the staffing, who's going to be charging to what, the management coordination, and I'll be stepping back in to kind of discuss grant administration and a little bit on how reporting will go, because this will not actually be in Terra. So on that note, I'm happy to hand off to you, Miguel.
Okay, thank you. So as I was saying, this is a fish welfare related grant, and there are several definitions for welfare. For the scope of this grant, we will use welfare as the individual state as it copes with the environment. This is an important message since in welfare science, there are different perspectives on welfare. There are organizations that focus more on the sentience part of it. And actually, one of the main goals of our project is to reduce animal suffering in the industry, but always with the evidence and science-based approach. And this is the main definition that we'll use from now on welfare. This project started mostly because we were having some feedback, engagement with partners regarding welfare, lots of questions, concerns with SR members, and the feedback I've been having from the market team, for example, was we have some partners already engaging on welfare, but didn't have any sort of advice how to tackle it. So welfare specifically on fisheries is actually more than an ethical problem, since it affects trillions of individuals. And for the welfare scope, we measure the impact in the number of individuals that are affected. So it's a really, really good area. Fisheries and aquaculture mostly are good environments to tackle welfare. This consortium will be focusing on behavioral research. We have partners that will be investigating what I call the impact on suffering of the individuals, how fish behavior and welfare decline during the fishing process. And for our perspective, we'll be tackling welfare in fisheries mainly on three main key moments: the capture process, once the individual gets on board, how it's handled by the fishers, what we call onboard handling, and finally stunning and slaughter process on board and procedures that are really important on for the welfare sake of the fish. We'll having partners also focus on welfare loss patterns, identifying species-specific patterns of suffering during this process. This is really important for us as fishers team mostly, because we're going to be developing welfare indicators, and in our database we cover hundreds, if not thousands, of species. Also, we'll have research groups on this consortium working on practical stunning solutions, try to develop reliable, easily implementable onboard stunning and killing methods. Um, and also, another point that is more related with the SFP work on this consortium, we'll be developing a global welfare database classification that will try to integrate on fish source database. And finally, one of our partners in the consortium will be responsible for training and implementing, and will work directly with the industry and ensure that some of the improvements that will come out from the consortium will be adopted by the industry. Well, about our partners, we are mostly uh, based in Portugal. Here I'm talking only about the beneficiary partners. So we have Fish Hatcher Group, which is a research group based on the southern part of Portugal, University of Algarve. Actually, they are the grantees of these grants. Sorry, they signed the grant agreement directly with the donor, and we are sub-grantees. So we signed with the Fish Hatcher Group, actually an MOU, which is the base of the work we're going to develop. We have Center of Marine Science of the Algarve University as well. Centro Tecnológico del Mar, Fundación Setmar, based in Spain, is also our partner. And Siena, which we will be responsible for the branding, the outreach, and the policy of the consortium. As I said before, these are beneficiary partners. We also have subcontract partners within the industry that will help, for example, develop some prototypes on the stunning methods that we'll be implementing. Chris, on to you.
Stepping in. So as Miguel mentioned, this is a sub-grant from the Fish Ethos Group. So we are a sub-grantee. We are not managing this grant directly with the funder. Our sub-grant amount is 400,000 euro, which is about 466,000 US dollars at the time of currency conversion. There is a breakout between working package 4, which is fish source, which is 75% of where the grant is going, and then working package 5, which is markets. That's 25%. Miguel will go into those details in a little bit, but for the meantime, as he mentioned, the grant period is January 15th all the way through late 2029 in October. We do have a reporting requirement due annually, both financial and a progress report due every year on March 31. But the reporting requirement is quite light, and I'll get into more details around that a little bit later on in this presentation. I'm going to hand it back to you, Miguel.
Thank you, Chris. So let's dive in on the specifics of this project. So the project is divided in working packages, 6 working packages, each one led by a different partner or several by the same partner. The first working package will be focusing on measuring welfare. So this is an operational scientific team that will be having experimental trials on board with the commercial fleet in southern Portugal. Just a quick note that the main focus of this project from the beginning was small-scale fisheries, and probably SFP is the only one applying this to a broader fisheries group. The second working packages will be improving welfare and quality. So the idea is for these research groups to go on board, bring samples, and analyze on the lab regarding some of the indicators they are searching for welfare, and also try to find some welfare alternatives on the stunning part of it, with low-cost, user-friendly stunning devices, for example, smart gear sensors on the nets. So these are all part of the work of these research teams. The working package number 3 is regarding fishers engagement. Six meaningful involvement with fishers will be led by our Spanish partner in Galicia, and they will work together with fishers associations, try to empower them as active partners, and ensure that these solutions we are seeking and bringing are accepted by the community. Finally, next we'll have the work package 4 and 5, the ones that regard SFP. Number 4 is led by Fisher's team. Mainly is to develop a global fish welfare classification method, integrating uh, welfare indicators into Fisher's database. Number 5, led by Markets team, regards welfare in seafood supply chain and aims to improve the seafood industry uptake on fish welfare by integrating the indicators we'll produce into the metrics system. Finally, we have Sienna leading the work package 6, which is about policy and outreach. We'll have to coordinate really well our communication strategy with this partner, but they will mostly focusing on disclosing consortium results, promoting our activities, lobbying on EU institutions about animal welfare, and they are responsible for the branding and the communication strategy in general. As I was trying to put, we're going to use a science-based collaborative approach, since we have stakeholders from different areas, research institutions that will do the field work and bring some results and try to bring some solutions, practical solutions. We have sorry, we have partners also related with the research community, but will be mostly focused on the fisheries engagement. So more regarding the social economic aspects of the impacts of bringing welfare to fisheries. Then we have us SFP as a really good partner, leveraging close to the supply chain members, and with this global database, we might get a really good step towards raising awareness on welfare directly with these lot of stakeholders at the same time. And then we have this partner that is more focused on outreach and policy, as I mentioned before. Main goals will be developing, for SFPs in particular, will be developing quantifiable indicators and running risk assessment analysis, always with the input from the industry stakeholders, developing animal welfare guidelines for commercial fishing practices. In the end, it would be important to have some solutions, recommendations regarding good practices, reducing impact on welfare, on fisheries welfare, and help implementing pragmatic, viable, scalable solutions. And the probably cost efficiency should be here, but it's not, but I will add it. On how to improve and reduce welfare impact during the process, the capture, on board handling, and slaughter procedures on board. What we have here is what we suggest as an action plan timeline for this consortium. We've divided these in 3 phases and different milestones. What you see here is a timeline mapping that we'll use only internally. That being said, the proposal that was accepted by the donor has a much less complex and less extent timeline action plans with less milestones. But this division in 11 milestones will help us to reach out to deliverables that we committed directly with the donors. So this is for internal use only. We should follow this action plan. But that being said, it's a dynamic action plan. We can change dates or even add milestones to it. Now I'm gonna I'm not sure if Chris, you want to say something, or anyone wants to say something before I enter into the milestones? No? So I'll proceed. We have 11 milestones. This is all SFP work. As Chris said, work package 5 will be led by markets team, but as I said, it's dynamic and we'll work together in some of these milestones. So the first one will be to produce a brief state of play, brief overview on fish welfare status. And because there are already some overviews produced by other colleagues in the welfare sphere, I think what we can use here is our position and leverage towards markets. So my idea was to showcase 2 or 3 partner examples, case studies on their target fisheries, and make a risk assessment, raising some hazards, and present some recommendations. That will be the idea for this first deliverable. And together with this, this is because sometimes on the engagement with the partners, it's important to have a document that or everything documented that we have so far. And having case studies with some of the partners, I think, would be an interesting document to present and to direct while engaging with our partners. Milestone number 2 will be a really long milestone, which will be all the research work and development process for this welfare classification method that will try to end up by the end of the project, and doing all the technical and scientific guidance for it. This will be led by the fish source team. It's important that we have long discussions with Catherine, since it's debatable if bycatch, for example, should be part of the criteria on the method or not. At least from our other consortium members, it's not well seen, but it totally depends on SFP to produce the final method, and we'll use what criteria we think we should use. But this will be an open discussion. Just to say, there will be an open discussion with other consortium members as well. Well, after that, we're aiming at pilot testing with some of these scores, and we'll choose probably some specific fisheries within the discussion with Ian and Mercedes, which would be the fisheries that are more interesting to pilot test here, with IT team as well involved on this task. Milestone number 4, integrate this newly developed methodology into fishers and the systems redesign. So IT team will be strongly involved in milestone number 4 as well. But here we are pointing out to August 27. So we have a huge time frame here to work towards this milestone. Milestone number 5 will be to integrate fish welfare indicators produced on fish shores into our metrics system. This will be a really, really important milestone for the markets team. because afterwards they can use it to leverage and engage even stronger with our partners. Milestone number 6, uh, which actually already started, is to develop some negotiations to formally join a welfare platform that is already established. Our initial idea was to form our own welfare hub from the scratch, but we realized that there are people working really, really well on welfare related to fisheries, so probably it's more efficient if we join. And join in this case will be Catch Welfare platform. Actually, we already start some talks with them, and the consortium as a whole will be a partner for this platform. The discussion inside SFP will be if we should join them individually as well. Well, after that, or these are parallel milestones. So people will be different people will be working different milestones at the same time. But an important milestone will be the communication strategy plan. And for that, the idea is to create and raise awareness on fish welfare together with our partners. And this will be a work developed mostly by the market team. Of course, Fish Source will give the technical support if needed. And here, Amy will also have a strong position on this. And here are some examples of things that we can promote. And in the end, I just put it these examples of a rank list of partners and a rank list of welfare organizations and their position on fish welfare. This is because sometimes we are contacted by partners. There have been contacted by welfare organization, for example, and we don't know how to advise them if it's a more leaning campaigning organization or a more evidence-based um, uh, organizations. So the idea is to rank these organizations and have this situation clear for us internally how to engage with our partners. Um, and milestone number 8 will be the final implementation of this welfare classification into fish source database, including uh, addressing and using the input that we're going to have from the results from the research teams during the consortium. So the idea is to create a model that is so dynamic that we have this general classification, but it always be able to absorb new results and new research on the field. In this case, will be at the GFP level. Milestone number 9, this one was an idea from the markets team to produce fish welfare audits. This is something that will probably end up as a product. The idea is to track hazards in these specific partner sourced fisheries and deliver fast forward solutions to tailored recommendations. In the end, is to do a dashboard assessment or a risk assessment for particular partners and try to use this as leverage and to engage with other partners that are so far not that interested on welfare, but after seeing these audits they might change their minds. We are reaching the end of the consortium timeline. By the end of the project, it will be great to have the public, and we'll have to get the public acknowledgement of at least 2 retail partners. And actually, this is something that is already ongoing since we've been contacting some partners, and they have been advising actually the funding organization in some welfare topics. So we have partners already super engaged with the topic. So I think this milestone will be easily covered. Finally, milestone number 11 formally join the welfare platform. As I said, we already begin some negotiations, and by the end, we should be part of this coalition, either from being part of the consortium or individually as an organization. Well, sorry, it was really long presentation on the milestones, and moving for the grant admin part.
Yep. And I'll be stepping in. So Miguel, help me out with this one specific slide, but in general, the consortium kickoff meeting already happened back in February. Miguel, you're kind of helping to work on the annual consortium in-person meeting, which should be happening next month. And additionally, I believe, Miguel, you are setting up the consortium monthly calls. So there will be consortium monthly calls, and there will be SFP internal core team calls, which Miguel will be setting up as well, along with the comms coordination calls. So go to Miguel for all of that, but where I will be stepping in will be the next slide, which is the reporting process. So I mentioned this earlier in the webinar. There is just a very simple annual report due to the funder on March 31st. While Miguel will be leading this process, I'm going to be kind of working to support from the back end. Miguel will be starting this process during the core team calls, but I do want to note that because of how simple the grant reporting process is, it will be not linked into your Terra reporting. How that's going to happen is you're going to be working with him kind of offline to get this report out the door. With that said, there is short quarterly updates that we need internally to kind of present to the SIT meetings. So we'll be working with you a little bit on that to make sure that everybody knows what's happening outside of this core team and that our deliverables are being met, everything's on time, etc. The next bit on reporting, if you can move up, is something that you should see all the time. I tend to present this quite often during grant launch webinars, but when you do get to the point when we have a report due, you just try and write the progress report with the grant OOs being the outputs and outcomes, or in this meaning the work projects, the work plans, so WP 5 and 4. So just kind of write against what is due. Include any context as needed, but we don't need any extraneous information because, again, this is such a simple report. What is helpful, though, is if you're including dates. So we have a chronological record if there's a meeting or an article or something like that, so we can kind of paint that picture with the timeline. And then finally, if there's something else that might be necessary or you've included it in like a share space ticket, if you can throw that link to the reporting team, that kind of helps give us context when we have to get the report written. The one thing I kind of want to mention is the reporting. It kind of allows the program leads to like review the entire picture of what's going on with the grant. It also allows M&E, so this will be Christian and Amalia, to track the progress, which then means we can inform SIT. So everybody within SFP has an idea of what, again, is going on. And from the development side, it kind of helps me begin drafting the donor reports or working with Miguel to draft the donor reports. So that way we get what the donor needs in the timeline that the donor needs it. So all of that is pretty simple. The reporting is in the Google Drive project folder number 30, which is now titled Coefficient Giving Well4Catch. There's a share space ticket, the number is there, and there's also a Slack channel that Miguel set up to do any sort of admin or discussion. I've got one final slide before we go into the question and answer, and this is just kind of a reminder on the expense and finance notes. Please, 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 as best you can, submit a timely service claim if you can by the 7th of the following month. Follow a charging plan, so discuss with either your supervisor or within the court team calls if there's any issues. We're trying to do our best to support the finance team because we're a little understaffed, to try and avoid over and underspend and reclassing, which could take a lot of their time, and we want to make sure that Anna has time to do everything she needs to do. We also really need you to keep your receipts for all allocated expenses so that way we can use them as necessary. The final thing I want to note is timely communication. If something changes, or if you're not sure you're going to hit a deliverable, or if something is happening, please let Miguel know, finance and myself know, so we can kind of figure out the best way to move forward. The goal is, making sure everybody is doing what we need to do in the time that is needed. So all of that is thrown at you. We're now going to kind of hand off to everybody on this call to see if you have any questions or anything you'd like to clarify.
Thank you, Chris. I'm not sure, but before say something, probably Ian, representing the markets team, wants to jump in. I'm gonna just stop.
No,
Sharing.
I haven't got anything to add, Miguel. It was a very clear presentation. So Mercedes will be leading the markets component for this piece. Unfortunately, obviously, Mercedes isn't here today. It's not a national holiday. We understand now. It's a regional holiday for certain parts of Spain. So which is why David and other Miguel are here. So yeah. No, so nothing extra to add, Miguel. Very clear. And again, Mercedes is working on with you directly on a lot of that timeline stuff. What I will say is it's an important aspect, and like I said, we're not trying to drive things for our partners they're not interested in. Miguel was very clear when we said we've been actually requested by partners for support in these areas. So this was a really timely grant opportunity that came in. So we've got organisations like Migros, Tesco's, Sainsbury's, others who are actually asking us how they can do more in fish welfare, and I'm trying to understand wild capture fish welfare. It won't be popular with all of our partners. It won't be popular with mid-supply chain companies. But again, Miguel's working really closely with the markets team to figure out how we can come up with really practical science-based indicators which can support our retail partners rather than sort of various campaigns to say that you shouldn't be doing X, Y, and Z when it's really not feasible. So no, good work on securing the grant, Miguel, and looking forward to seeing what we can take forward.
Yep. Thank you so much, Ian. Yeah, and actually, some of the milestones are already ongoing with this brief overview that I think will be an important tool for us to use on engaging with some partners. Just I'm not sure if I stop sharing. I don't think so, right?
Yeah, you did stop sharing. It's all
Oh,
good.
okay, sorry. Yeah, and if anyone else wants to jump in, Susanna, if you want to do something on behalf of the Fish Search team as well.
No, nothing to add. Sounds good. And thanks, Miguel, for bringing this grant into the organization through your other hats that you wear outside SFP.
Miguel, I think the one complexity to raise here is going to be one that we find across everything that I know we've talked about is like, coming up with indicators is the first step, but it's actually figuring out how to populate those indicators onto fish source profiles and onto relevant partner related fisheries. I can't remember whether we had something written specifically into the grant, but it's definitely something we're going to have to work on as we move through the grant. And maybe that's the next phase for this work, and how do we upscale and actually get these indicators populated so it can make it usable. But I think for some of those partners, there'll be, we've seen Migros are willing to fund work to develop indicators on their particular supply chains, but this is something that we wrestle with across the board on sort of upscaling implementation of indicators that we bring up.
Yep. And on that, it's actually it's really it totally depends on us SFP on actually the sort of criteria that we want to use here, and I think it would be really useful these discussions with some of the partners since they are interesting on developing their own indicators. What I see here to happen is to integrate all these sort of um, criteria that covers from biodiversity on bycatch, on on these soaking times, these technical aspects of the fisheries, and also on the economic part of it, and for that will resonate directly with our partners, because I didn't talk that much about the economic part of it, but it will be a really important issue here on moving forward and bringing more people, more partners for this topic. And I didn't talk also about the the improvements that the final product might have, and that will be also something that we can use to leverage here. So yeah, there will be a really interesting discussions in the beginning while putting together this methodology and this welfare model for the indicators.
Yeah, I think that's really important, right? If we can show companies that actually looking out for these things gives them better product and reduces their costs, right? That's a much easier case to make to companies, I imagine. But just to clarify on your question, Ian, I think the plan here is usually we would have funding to develop a methodology, and then we're left with the problem of how to populate all the profiles with the methodology. The questions here, or the situation here, is a little bit different because this animal welfare for wild capture fisheries is so early in its development that we can probably, just from the gear and the species and the location, develop like really rough indicators. So it's probably not more than 3 categories. But the idea is that we would automate that, and so part of the milestone is we pre-populate. I'm not going to say every profile in fish source, because I think we're not going to be looking at species other than fish, and maybe some of the gears would not be in scope. But whatever we have good evidence for and we can come up with a categorization for, everything would be pre-populated with these rough indicators of impact.
Thank you. That's music to my ears.
Exactly. And as I said before, the initial scope of the project, and still is for the research team, is small scale fisheries. We inside a fish source team decided to increase the scope and broader scope to all marine fish species that we have on our profiles. So it's up to us the coverage that we're going to give it under fish source database.
Yeah, we didn't want to just score small scale fisheries and then give the impression that this is a small scale fishery issue, because clearly it's not, right? And also it may appear a little bit strange that fish source is starting with wild capture instead of aquaculture, which is where things are the science is a lot more developed and indicators exist and so on, but that's just the way the funding worked, the timing of this funding. But I think there's a possibility of us maybe exploring aquaculture down the road.
Yeah. I'm not sure if anyone has a question. Please, go ahead.
Thank you, Miguel. I have one question, or maybe like, I mean, he's not largely involved in that grant, right? I think that all rests with you, basically. So as we said, the only request would be these quarterly updates to SIT, like following the template, right? I think, which is high level. So I don't think that will be like a huge problem for you. I would urge you to also take that as a chance to basically share that and trigger alignment or integration of what you need to be integrated into our other strategy initiatives. Because I think like to make really like a longer term plan and impact, and potentially like after the grant, also keep like animal welfare in SFP's portfolio, so to say. I think we also need to make sure that this is integrated as far as possible in the other, let's say, longer standing strategy initiatives like the biodiversity, right? I mean, it's like, I mean, they work on bycatch issues as well, right? I'm so go for mostly at the moment, right? I'm like, so there might be like partly overlaps at least, right? I'm like for animal welfare there. Shark finning, something I'm thinking about. Where's the welfare for the sharks? But yeah, I'm gonna say so just to see that chance also, right? I'm gonna say to widen your audience within SFP as well, right? I'm gonna say beyond those people that are directly involved in grant implementation.
It is true. Thank you, Chris. And it's nice to hear from you about this long-term strategy. And about that, as Susanna mentioned already, we are doing this specific work on fish source and market stream engagement with welfare. But definitely, this is a subject that might be expanded towards the organization with other teams' involvement as well. Thank you. I'm not sure if there's any other questions or concerns. We'll be, as Chris mentioned, we'll have this in-person meeting. Officially, the grant already started, so folks can already start reporting on Uninet on this grant. What else? I'll be scheduling the core team monthly calls as well, and they'll be happening soon after the consortium meeting. Monthly calls. I think these will be the most important things. There's an important call that SFP will have me, Amy, and the outreach member of the consortium to set a really strict and coordinated communication strategy. I think it's important, given the atmosphere in the welfare science. You can find really strong campaigning organizations and others more moving towards evidence-based organizations. So we already have this official position that Amy published. It's already public on our website. It was something that I wanted to mention as well. And that's something that we can already use. So we are on the evidence side of it, and again, the work already started. Let's see how it goes, and in the core team calls, we'll decide, and we'll report every result and every activity that we'll develop in the future. I'm not sure if there's more comments, questions by you guys. If not, Chris, I think we can
Sounds good.
close it up.
So I will stop recording.